Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is a fun one. I got a viewer question for a video suggestion a couple of days ago regarding my worst fishing related injury. So I thought I would share this with you, and it's almost, I almost am more intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. So let me know in the comment section what are some of the injuries you've suffered while out fishing. And the reality is I probably am pretty fortunate not to have ever really had a very serious injury while in the boat. I've had a lot of hooks in me. I get a lot of people that always are commenting on my videos about how I like to fish barefoot and how often I get hooks in my feet. I've, knock on wood, never had a hook in my foot from being barefoot in the boat. I've had a good number of hooks in me over the years. Some situations where I've had fish attached to them and I've had to pull them out myself because I was by myself. But I do have one story for you that is an interesting, it's kind of an entertaining story. It's not like I was seriously injured, but it's just interesting to me how some of this works out. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced Stream Flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. So going back to one of my first years on tour, I'm going to say this was like 2011, 2012. I was still working a corporate job at that point. So it was one of my first 3 years on tour while I was fishing the FLW tour. During one of the tournaments I had been on, so it was probably, I want to say it was Okeechobee. I don't recall the specific venue, but it was one of the first tournaments of that season. So I know it was like January or February. I caught a really small bass, like a 6-8 inch bass, like a small little bass. And I swung it in the boat. I was taking it off. And as I was taking it off the hook, the fish came unbuttoned. And I took my hand. And as it was falling, I just kind of gave it a tap to bump it into the water as it was falling. And when I did that, I caught one of the dorsal fins right in my finger right here. And didn't really think anything of it other than it hurt, right? Like when you get a dorsal fin, when you get finned, it hurts and it burns a little bit. And I fished the rest of the tournament, fished the rest of the, I think that was the first day because I remember having to deal with it the next day and just having pain from it. But overall, I just thought it was a spot, that I got spined. It was sore. It would go away in a day or two. And I actually have uh, a spot right here. This is a dorsal fin spot right on my finger that I actually thought I might have to go get looked at, but it's doing much better today. Yesterday it was kind of starting to get red and inflamed, and it had a little pus in it, so I thought I might have to go get. I just wanted to pay special attention to it. Anyways, back to the story. So I probably went, I'm going to say about a month after that tournament and had pain in the tip of my finger. So it didn't hurt when I did any, like if I was just sitting here, it did not hurt. But anytime I went and applied pressure onto that finger, I would feel it or at least feel some pain. So I got to the point where I started getting a little concerned that maybe there was a part of that dorsal fin in my finger. And at this point, like the spot where it had been, everything healed over. I just knew if I took my finger and squeezed on it, it would hurt. And I'm not the type to just go into the doctor to have something treated. And I'm going to say it was sometime probably in March. Uh, I remember actually loading my tailgate and pulling up on the tailgate and having just like a really sharp pain in that finger and being like, I got to go get this looked at because it's obviously something's not right. And it was like the next day I went into the office, and at that point I had a team of people that I was managing, and one of my staff members was a young woman who was pregnant at the time, and she came into the office and she was upset, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said she had slipped on some ice outside of the we were in the Board of Trade building, I think, or the Mercantile Exchange building at that time. And she was concerned because she fell, she was pregnant, and, it was a bad fall, I guess. So I told her, you know what, I will go with you to the emergency room because I have something going on with my finger that I need to have looked at. And she was like, all right, let's go. So we went together, and I remember sitting there, and, she's, in there filling out the form, talking to the nurses, and I'm just like, I'm here for something stupid. She's like, could potentially be hurt, baby could have an issue, and I'm trying to fill out the form, and I'm like, I had a fish spine in my finger. Like, I just remember thinking, like, this is going to be weird. Anyway, so they called her in, she went her way, they called me in, and the doctor is like, well, I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything, but we can take an x-ray. And now, at that point now, I'm like, this is going to be an ordeal. So they take an x-ray, and in the x-ray, they actually can see the spine that's in my finger. And at that point, they're like, well, the only way to get it out at this point is to surgically remove it. But the problem is it was such a small spine and it was a small fish that it was not like an easy thing. So they numb my hand, they cut it open, and, I got my hand down. They actually strapped my hand down. And I just remember like him digging around so that you can see the scar still on that finger where they sliced it open, he's digging around, and he just kind of is like, there it is. And he sees it, and he takes his tweezers to it and grabs it and literally pulls on it, and my whole finger just goes up with the tweezers. Now remember, like my hand is numb at this point, so I really can't do a whole lot, but my finger is going up and down with the tweezer. And it literally was stuck in the bone of my finger. The spine was buried in it. So they had to like come and get a special like tool to latch onto it and pull it out, some extractor tool. It turned into a big ordeal, but I'll tell you this, after they stitched that finger back up and I went home, it felt instantly better. Like even though my finger had been cut open, it just felt so good to have that out. So just a minor fishing thing that turned into a little bit bigger ordeal. And it was in there Even the doctors were surprised. They're like, I think it was in there for like 5 weeks at that point, and they were surprised that it was not infected at all. It just was the spine buried in my bone of my finger, and that was all just because I tried to help that little bass as he was falling to my boat. I was trying to give him a bump, and I did. I bumped him out over the side, so he never even hit the carpet. But that's my story. So, maybe it's not the worst injury I've ever had or most painful injury, but it was kind of the biggest ordeal in terms of having to actually go get x-rays and have it surgically removed from my finger. Yeah, so let me know in the comments section, what are some of the worst fishing injuries that you have had? I'll be curious to read these comments. I think that'll be entertaining. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully this answers the viewer's question, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow. And just as a side note, my coworker was absolutely fine. Baby was absolutely fine. That all worked out great. It's just a fun story to tell at this point.